impact powered by Fintech TV. My name is Kavita Gupta.
And I'm Vince Molinari, and we're broadcasting again from the wonderful New York Stock Exchange.
Vince, yet another super inspiring and exciting episode for CNBC Africa. This time we are covering somebody from Africa, born and brought up in Africa and creating the first generational wealth all the way to billions. Listed among the Forbes 50th richest man across Africa. You know the man.
Well, mad respect for Vimal Shah and his brother and his dad for creating a behemoth, right? When we look at from startup and first generation to creating a bit of a dynasty, not only in Kenya, but in all of Africa.
Absolutely. And what I love about this new generation or first generation entrepreneurs, as I said, even though they started with the most infrastructural business, you cannot be in East Africa and not touch one of their products, whether you're drinking a juice, whether you're drinking water, or want to buy a soap. But at the same time, the core is to create and empower Africa with Pan-African fintech system.
And I have to say, a huge fan of Mr. Shah, Vimal himself, for stepping out and being a leader and giving back and being a mentor and educating next generation entrepreneurs and business leaders. So he's the full package.
Looking forward to the interview now.
Absolutely.
Our guest today is somebody who is born and brought up in Africa, but instead of leaving the country, actually ended up creating one of the biggest businesses across the continent, Bidco. Vimal Shah is the chairman of Bidco, but apart from running a multi-billion-dollar business, he's also a tech investor, a mentor, and sort of a representative of Africa for the rest of the world. It's a pleasure to have him on the Impact powered by Fintech TV. Vimal, thank you so much for taking time out. How are you doing?
Thank you, Kavita. I'm fine. All's well.
Vimal, it's your journey, and especially Bidco's journey, is very different from how usually multi-generational businesses, especially in the infrastructure space, exist in continents like Africa, Asia, and India. How did the journey for Bidco started for you?
Well, it starts from my father. He's the inspiration. BD Shah, as the name Bidco comes from him. And him, myself, and my brother Tarun, we started this thing together. And he was into clothing and garments. And we said, let's go backward into the value chain and look at cotton farming. And when we're looking at that, to cut a long story short, we looked at the entire value chain. And we saw there's cotton seeds that come out of cotton farming. And if you crush cotton seeds, you get oil, you get animal feeds, you get a lot of byproducts, you can make soap out of it. And 35 years ago, we just jumped onto that and said, fine, let's start stage one and then go backwards into it. And the journey has never, stopped since then.
Wow, 35 years creating such a huge business. This sounds like another Ambani story, especially when I hear it. Vimal, but it cannot be that easy, right? The journey of creating such businesses are never easy. Is it possible for you to share one or two really big ones when you felt like, okay, maybe something else?
Yeah, so it's in the start it was difficult. In the start, when you actually try and make your product fresh, new products introduced into the market, nobody accepts them because hey, it's not a big seller, and you got to have a startup and a founder's mentality, and that's so important because at that point, it's about having a can-do attitude, and that's what we had. My father inspired it, my brother and myself all together worked on it. So when we produced our first soap, it was pure white, it was more fresher, we said a better product. The market said no consumers asking for it, so how do we produce it, how do you sell it, and how do you buy it? So we had to work things around differently, and a lot of improvisations, a lot of iterations, and going back and forth, and pretty good struggles. But I think all that struggle helped us to say, fine, we've got to make it happen. And of course, the journey was long because we were going into soaps, backward from soap into oils, from oils into seed crushing, and then from crushing into farming. And we've now got the whole value chain from the soil to the frying pan.
Wow. I remember even before I ever met you, I was drinking your juices all over Kenya. And then when I came to your office, I was like, oh, this also belongs to you. Is there any product which we can touch in East Africa or Pan Africa without touching Bidco supply chain?
Well, if you're a householder, if it's in a household, every household has our products, and that's why it's a household name. And of course, when it's hygiene, personal care now, whether it's food, whether it's drinks in terms of share of throat, we're into all that stuff. And then of course, personal care products too. And our game plan is not ended yet. This has just begun. We've got a long way to go, where we'd like to get into 70% of the consumer baskets and see all the categories that are adjacencies. So it's still starting up. And I think what we insist on is everybody still having a startup and the founder's mentality, even 35 years hence.
Vimal, I would love to touch something personal. So your family at some point moved from India to Africa. When was that?
So that was I'm born in Kenya, my son is born in Kenya, my father's born in Kenya, and my grandfather migrated here, he came over. And before that, my great-grandparents used to come and go, eastern shores of East Africa, and they used to come and go through Madagascar and to Kenya. And so we're all here. It's about 108 years now.
Wow.
My father is still with us. He's 89 years old and he's still around.
Wow. So as an African citizen, as from East Africa, I know you're very proud Kenyan. The thought of leaving and doing this business somewhere apart from Africa never came to your mind?
No, I've been everywhere. I've been all over. Educated here in Kenya, but been all over the US, Singapore, Asia, China. I think Kenya and Africa presents, in my opinion, the biggest and the best opportunity for us, because really everything needs to be done out here. And the opportunity space is different. Having a planter's mentality, not a harvester's mentality, makes all the difference for us, because we want to be long-term. We want to plant and we want to make sure that this is home. And for us, this is absolutely home. So it's interesting where now we're going into other African countries and everybody else is sort of inviting us and saying, come over, and be part of us.
And
so actually, I would
home.
say I'm indigenous Kenyan in a way.
No, that is so fascinating, and for me personally, that's very inspiring. Vimal, another thing which I've learned from you and doing my research on Bidco is sustainability. Because one of the biggest thing in Africa, like everyone in the world is looking at Africa today on how sustainability is, but you have been sort of a leader in this space even before it became the trend. How do you look at sustainability as a terminology?
So, sustainability and the definition of sustainability, it's planet first, it's people second, and profits third. Profits are more of a byproduct, right? They're not the objective. So where we come from, it probably comes from being a Jain, being a Hindu, in terms of saying, okay, let's worry about the environment and make sure that we don't harm the environment. It came from our set of values from day one. So it was like, you don't want to waste any products. Right now, we have zero wastage across the board.
Wow.
Including our plantations. We've got plantations in Uganda now. Nothing goes to waste, including our refineries. Nothing goes to waste. Everything is put to use. And that was one thing that was important. The water footprint, the hydrocarbons we don't burn anymore. We've got biomass. We do cogeneration. Now we're doing solar. So we're doing renewables in a big way. And our water footprint also is down. So overall, it's part of our DNA. It's not about CSR. We don't talk about CSR and say, let's do cosmetic social responsibility. We actually do it in terms of SRC, being a socially responsible corporate. So it's part of our DNA.
I love that. So instead of doing 1 or 2% every year, you basically put it as a value system right in the core and say, this is how we're going to do it.
Before the profit, it comes as an expense. So it's part of the being good, not doing good.
Love that. But Vimal, let's take an example, because I think this could be a benchmark for a lot of companies, not just in Africa, but across the world. So let's pick up any of your factory and please walk us through how would that consider as a zero carbon footprint factory overall?
So when we started off, initially it was like you start off with boilers being fuel oil fired, and we turned that into biomass. And now we've gone ahead and said, for biomass, we need to go and reproduce the product. So we actually do encourage bamboo farming and stuff like that. So people can actually generate that bamboo and grow it, and we buy it. We give them off-take contracts. In the same manner where we crush seeds right now. We crush soybean, sunflower. We have 30,000 farmers, or 10,000 to 30,000 farmers who actually come on board, and we give them off-take contracts. So we buy that from them and we crush it. everything, including the husk, is utilized as a boiler fuel, and the product goes out as oil. But there's animal feeds. All this sort of the crush that's left becomes animal feeds, and everything is utilized. So overall, we use solar energy, we use less water, and obviously when we give back to the farmers, we also give them a cash flow in terms of animal feeds, and that sustains them all through. So it's called the circular economy, where we make sure that everything is recycled, reused, and no wastage.
Very fascinating. Apart from Bidco, you have been yourself a very big tech investor in the space. You have been looking at a lot of products. And Africa, and especially East Africa, has gone through a complete, from a telephone to a mobile generation without ever having a telephone line. It has actually been an example for the rest of the world what technology and financial inclusivity can do. Are there particular technology products in the region, in the country, which you feel like are completely changing the way everyone uses them?
I think in a big way, because I think as far as we're concerned here in East Africa, the markets have opened up. First of all, we have market access into East Africa. And January this year, we opened up to the ACFTA, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which allows us to sell our products across Africa, and every country is signing on to it. Apart from that, the technology, we've got bandwidth, we've got enough fiber optics across the board, including last mile. So our bandwidths are very, very good. And I'm talking to you right now, sitting in my office in Nairobi. It's possible. So with that, we have all our stuff is digital. In fact, we have SAP working on HANA live, real-time online. And we've got mobile phones, and through that we do mobile commerce. And ultimately, this takes us back to fintech. In terms of fintech and what's going to happen in the next stage is, everybody's going to use mobile phones to get their orders done. So we get our orders through mobile phones. We deliver through that. We've got WhatsApp robots. We've got lots of things happening. And that technology for fintech is going to be the game changer. I think for Africa, where we've got 54 countries and we've got too many borders and everybody's trying to sort of put in their own regulations, the minute we give this a big democracy, the entire gamut of fintech takes place very well. All our money today is coming through M-Pesa. M-Pesa is one of our SMS calls or whatever, but now it's going through e-banking. And you can't even write a check for more than $10,000. It's just not possible, right? It's just not allowed. It's not happening. So all that technology has helped fast forward digital transformation.
Much more on the impact when we come back.
Welcome to Fintech TV, home of Exponential Voices, a global media platform for digital assets and sustainable investing.
My name is Kavita Gupta.
And I'm Vince Molinari, and we are so pleased to be back at the New York Stock Exchange.
Headquartered in New York, where we are constructing a state-of-the-art broadcast studio, along with our studio stock exchange partners at the NYSE, NASDAQ, and LSEG, among others. Plus correspondents and contributors all over the globe. We reach 850 million households globally, with a unique blend of online viewership and traditional TV networks. Our signature shows, the Digital Asset Report, focused on the global ecosystem of blockchain, digital assets, financial tech evolution, and legislation and regulations surrounding the sector.
I guess my question to you then is, A, are you a believer that Bitcoin is the, I don't want to call it the Holy Grail?
The way I think of Bitcoin is a global currency. Individual countries will continue to have their stable coins.
And The Impact, a show focused on credible social entrepreneurs, impact investors, family offices, and the grassroots warriors amplifying the needs and progress of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Plus ongoing special series. Pat Mitchell, Dangerous Women Leading Onward. Roy Wood Jr., Faces of Race. SSE TV, UN Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative. Price of Climate. Unique content on a global media platform. This is Fintech TV.
You mentioned M-Pesa, and M-Pesa has become the benchmark for everyone across the globe to learn how your mobile payment system can really change and increase the GDP of the country. India followed up with UPI, and now rest of the world with Apple Pay and Visa. So let's go back. Like East Africa started with M-Pesa, especially with Kenya, and then lots of countries started doing mobile payment system, but their own. As you mentioned, every country has their regulations. I know you have always talked about pan-African, neobank sort of branchless payment system. How do you envision that?
I think it's going to be the leapfrogging right now. We can leapfrog to the latest technology. We don't have to go to the old hog of saying there's a bank here and the banks sort it out. I think we're going to leapfrog that. Therefore, we will adopt and adapt the latest fintech technology in terms of having a neobanking across the region and give access to finance to everyone. And I think that's going to be important on their mobile phones with a simple three touches and you're done. 3 clicks and you're done. So in that manner, you got your banking, you got your money transfers, and from that, you actually revolutionize because everybody can pay anyone wherever as long as they've got their numbers. And that's going to take commerce to a different level. That's going to take cashless societies. We don't even need banks. So I think disrupting banks is going to be a big one because you can be branchless now. You can be cashless in branches. And therefore, the whole movement of cash, which was all security and theft and all those problems, are all gone and it's traceable. It can be traced back to wherever it's going.
It sounds really amazing, but it also, for me, being in Africa, seeing how M-Pesa and then Tala and then Branch and like bunch of financial inclusive companies coming in, the common thread problem has always been, how do you handle regulations across so many countries, especially from east to west to south, where individual country may want to just stick to their own local system?
So I think that's a big mover. I think we're going to adopt regulation. We're going to deregulate in a big way because when M-Pesa was started up, there was no regulation on money transfer through mobile phones, right? You had to go and write it up again. And now the whole world is writing it from there. So therefore, we believe that Africa, in terms of opening up, is going to open up much more faster. There is no legacy system that these banks or these people run the show. And this payment is a pain. We used to everything used to go through Europe. And if you have to pay somebody in Ghana, you'd have to go to London and from London go to Ghana.
Wow.
We can do that. We can do that direct now, right? And again, when you see more and more crypto or more and more fintech, more and more systems where coins are going to come in, I think it's just going to make it so much more easier. The only thing is that the flow of logistics has to happen at the same time. It's got to go with logistics, where our goods need to reach there, and then of course the money can reach there. So the payment system, put that onto logistics, and then you got a whole way of doing trade. Now that ACFTA means open borders, no duties, no tariffs. We can have one system which is all digitized, and you got your customs documentation going through transporters. And you can digitize and you can do FASTag and you can do so much more with AI, machine learning. And data will be the biggest oil for Africa because you know what? All that data will be available to people to sort of slice and dice the way they want to do it.
I mean, that data is invaluable because this will be the first time access of data to people, not only first time on the system, but across the borders, from business to individual, from remittances to products, the truck system, the cold storage. That data is invaluable. How long do you think this is actually going to be in reality?
I think it's already happening. It's already there in terms of the mindsets are already there. Yeah. I think the beauty is COVID helped fast forward that by 5 to 6 years. So in a way, I'd say hats off to COVID that we actually digitized much more faster in Africa. The acceptance came up faster. And now people want to be contactless selling, cashless selling, and you can actually transfer money or receive money from wherever. Now, the only issue is we got to get our drones and whatever logistics we talk about actively working on it so that we can actually sort that out. And you've solved the biggest problem for Africa, which is logistics.
Very.
And of course, the paperless transfer, because if your truck is going through from here to Ghana and you've got, or going to Zambia, you've got 4 or 5 different border stops.
Digital
all that
verification.
Can be digitized.
Yeah.
And it's all digitized, single verification, checked, and also control the fraud. So you can really do so much more And that's the beauty. It is happening. So it's not that it's a pie in the sky that it might happen one day, inshallah. It's actually happening.
No, inshallah. And I believe that Africa would be unstoppable right after that. Like, there is nothing which could stop them from being one of the world's biggest power. You have been a representative of Africa, spokesperson of Africa in a lot of ways. When you look at Africa with respect to trends, with respect to growth, what are the 3 top trends from technology or finance which you think is unmatchable coming from Africa to the rest of the world?
So you see, first and foremost, Africa is 1.3 billion, 1.4 billion today. By 2050, will be 2.5 billion. So you got a 1.2 billion more people to feed. You give them food, clothing, and shelter. Apart from that, obviously, there's a lot more that happens. Now, consumption is still going to go on. The question is, where is it going to supply? Where's the supply going to come from?
Yeah.
And really, urbanization is happening across Africa. Populations are growing. So those 2 opportunities give you a lot more consumption happening in Africa. Consumerism is coming in, and therefore there's a lot more there. So all these are opportunities. We in Africa have been exporting all our raw materials at low cost to the world and supplying it to China or whatever, and for them to manufacture. They're all becoming very high cost bases, and therefore Africa is becoming a better low cost space. Now, with that comes the opportunity of saying, let's value add in Africa and sell across Africa. With the easing up of, and put on top of that, put the digital transformation of having cable, having fintech, having bandwidth available everywhere. That's the big revolution. What it does is, the leveling of the playing field. It was never level. The West was always above there, and we were always down there. Now, what you see on your Google page, I can see in Nairobi same time. So if Apple loads and brings in a new phone tomorrow, my guy in rural Kenya wants it tomorrow. He doesn't want it after 1 year. So that whole lagging time is gone. And now it's real-time online. So we've got to make sure that our logistics is in. We've got to make sure what you aspire to in the West is available here at the same time. If not, they're going to improvise and they're going to make their own. So I'm just saying that opportunity space is so big that really, and I don't think multinationals realize it because they say 54 countries, different regulations. For them to navigate the turf is difficult.
Yeah.
For us, we're born here, so we see it different.
Yeah, I think they realize it. They just don't know how to really go about this and how to navigate the country, as you said.
That's the big one, because they're coming in with their own paradigms of saying, this is how I do it in the States, this is how I do it elsewhere. And here you've got to be different. You've got to be much more agile.
Absolutely.
So there's a different story.
Vimal, my last question, which is also looking forward but looking back. Now, the way you have created Bidco, starting from your dad, it's a generational company. It's a legacy. When you look at the legacy with your son, with your nephew coming into the business, what does a generational impact and a generational company looks like to you?
So, we're family owned, but we're not family run. So we're going to make it a much more bigger institution whereby it'll be available in a bigger way. And, we're going to call it Dance Africa and, really make it better. So we can actually bring in many more people on board and really make this ship bigger. So that's the whole analogy, which I can, give you a whole spiel next time we talk. But the fact remaining that Bidco is going to grow into a bigger institution across Africa, Pan-African, and, basically in FMCG.
Wow. I was thinking that would be my last, but I have to ask you this. If you have to pick one thing for you to, as your legacy, what would you say that is what you want your legacy to be?
Enhancing happy, healthy living across Africa.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Vimal, for joining us. It is really inspiring, not just the sustainability part, but I am still very hooked up with the idea of one financial system across Africa, making it a superpower in the world. And we are all rooting for you and looking forward to actually really realizing it and have you back once it's done.
Thank you very much. And, I call it staying mad. Mad means making a big difference, making a difference, MAD.
Perfect.
Stay mad.
Stay mad. Thank you so much. And for more such inspiring stories, please come to Fintech.tv. That's what we have today. Hopefully you'll go and start looking into the next big financial systems in Africa. Thank you.